Hi, my name's Jack Atkinson, and today we're going to be talking about physical development and specifically infant physical development. My prior knowledge of the subject in physical development in infants is that there's certain milestones through the first 24 months of life that children should be reaching. If children are not reaching these physical development milestones, it is a possible red flag that there are hidden issues in their physical development and possibly cognitive and brain development. I also have prior knowledge of how fast babies grow in the first 24 months of life. This is through seeing relatives' babies grow up, and they grow very fast in the first 24 months physically. There were many key concepts discussed throughout the readings about physical development in infants all the way to past adolescence. I will be focusing on the key concepts within the first 24 months of life. The first key concept is growth patterns. Growth patterns in infants are separated into two different categories. The first being cephalotous patterns. This is when early physical development starts at the head and works its way down the body. The second growth pattern, being proximal distal patterns of growth, is when physical growth starts at the center of the body and works its way out. Another key aspect of infant physical development is the birth weight and physical growth within the first 24 months of life. By the age of 4 months, babies should have doubled their birth weight, and by the age of 24 months, they should have tripled their birth weight, and this is all due to a thing called the sucking reflex. Affects their growth massively. Additional key aspects to infants' physical development is reaching gross motor skills milestones. Through the first year of life, things such as lifting the head, rolling over, sitting without support, standing, and even walking are key to an infant's development. My own personal experiences highlight the importance of physical development. A family member of mine who has recently had a child regularly visited the doctor before the baby was born and after the baby was born. They were making these appointments to see the doctor to make sure the baby is maintaining a healthy weight and growing properly. These sort of things were very important to be checked on as an infant needs to grow properly in the first 24 months of life. They were also checking the basic motor skill development to make sure they're lifting their head at the right time, lifting their chest, being able to roll over, and even sit up by themselves. These checks were done to make sure that there's no issues with physical development. Throughout the literature, it was highlighted that it is important to track the growth rates of infants to make sure they are developing properly. It is one of the most important key signs that an infant is developing properly. This needs to be done through measurement of height and weight gain within the first 24 months of life. Another key aspect of infant physical development is the gross motor skill development. If an infant is not reaching milestones, it can be an early sign of developmental issues. If an infant is not reaching key physical indicators of gross motor development, it can be an early sign of physical disabilities in later life. Another key aspect of infant physical development is the importance of sucking. It is extremely important for feeding and therefore physical growth and development. Sucking is a key area of infant development and also gross motor skill development, and it requires coordination with breathing and swallowing. In terms of motor development and physical development, sucking is also vital, as a healthy infant has to have the ability to suck and swallow from birth onwards, and often, if this skill isn't developed straight away from birth, it is a reason for prolonged hospital discharge. Throughout the readings, I have now learned how important development is and understanding how important development is. I now know how important growth patterns are and the significance it plays in physical development in infants in the first 24 months of life. It is extremely important to understand the rates at which infants develop and the key factors and milestones that they should be reaching in their first 24 months of life. The first main point about infant development is to keep track of the growth in height and weight of infants throughout the first 24 months of life. Height and weight are key indicators if an infant is developing properly physically. It is also a sign of nutrition and possible nutrition issues. The second point is that infants need to develop motor skills such as sitting, crawling, raising their head, and sitting and standing without support. If an infant is not able to do these physical skills throughout the first 24 months of life and development, it is a key sign to underlying health issues. The third point in regards to development is sucking and swallowing. This is a key skill that is needed in physical development for infants as it is how they feed. Feeding properly is obviously a key part to physical development in infants. The first point is that a child needs monitoring. An infant's caregiver needs to be aware of growth patterns, how much the baby needs to develop, and how much they need to grow in weight and height in the first 24 months of life. Secondly, infants need constant care and support from their caregiver. Without this, infants cannot communicate with language yet. The caregiver needs to understand the infant's needs when they need feeding and how important this role plays in long-term physical development. Thirdly, infants need the opportunity to be stimulated and develop physically. An infant needs to reach physical milestones in the first 24 months of life, such as sitting up, standing on their own, standing and walking around. These are key aspects to physical development. Families play an extremely important role. Without caregivers, infants would not be able to feed properly, therefore they would not develop properly. They need constant support and care from their caregivers and other families members, otherwise they will not develop. Secondly, infants need support to develop their motor skills physically. Without someone helping them along the way of their journey, they will not reach the milestones in the first 24 months of life, and the milestones in the first 24 months of life are very important to future development. Thirdly, families are there along every step of the journey, monitoring how much the infant is physically developing in height and weight over the first 24 months of life. The first 24 months of life, it is key to how much an infant develops. An infant is meant to triple its birth weight by the time it gets to 24 months of age.